a clear expectation that in the most significant case of weather today, if we have significant numbers of down trees or down power lines across the city, it could take several days or longer to get back to normal. So we all are praying to the weather gods, but we are also preparing. Once the storm has passed your neighborhood, and we just, again, ask you to check on vulnerable neighbors and friends. So with that, I'm going to turn to Clint Osborne from DCH-SEMA, followed by WMATA General Manager Randy Clark, then DDOT Director Kirschbaum, and Amber Perry, the PEPCO Region President. So with that, Clint.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the mayor said, we have a powerful storm system bringing widespread and severe weather across the eastern United States today. The highest threat is concentrated over the interior mid-Atlantic, where we could be seeing damaging wind gusts and tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center for the National Weather Service has designated the Washington area a moderate threat or a moderate risk. This is a level 4 out of 5, with 5 being the highest risk level for severe thunderstorms, and they have flagged tornado threats. The way they explain this to us is that our current risk level is similar to that of traditional tornado alley states like Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Tennessee. And the last time we had these conditions was the 2012 derecho that caused significant damage to the district. This is a risk level that we rarely see in our area, and we will see temperatures continue to climb this afternoon and fuel this storm. The National Weather Service has already issued tornado warnings to the west and to the south of us, as well as a tornado watch for the district until 7 p.m. They can always escalate that to a more significant tornado warning if conditions become favorable. So as the mayor said, we ask that you take this storm seriously. We certainly are. This storm will be quick moving. It's going to quickly move through our area, and then it's going to be followed by a cold front. So surprisingly, after hitting 73 degrees today, temperatures are going to drop into the 20s tonight, and it's going to feel wind chills even below that. So we are likely to see a cold advisory for the District of Columbia tonight. We're going to see 2 bands of storms. The first band will be coming through in the 12 to 2 o'clock hour. The second, more severe storm band is expected from 4 to 6 p.m. And these storms will move rapidly. So please do not wait until the storm is overhead to take action. There are 3 main hazards at play: damaging winds, tornadoes, and flooding. We are looking at wind gusts of up to 80 miles an hour, as well as possible tornadoes. As the mayor said, if we do see flooding, we expect it not to be widespread, but rather in low-lying areas and areas where potentially storm drains have been clogged. But as the mayor said, please don't drive through standing water. At Mayor Bowser's direction, HCM has activated the district's Emergency Operations Center and Joint Information Center. Our first responders and emergency personnel are already positioned to respond to potential impacts. Our priorities are going to be clearing down trees, utility outages, and unplanned road closures as they affect hospitals, schools, and our other government facilities. That allows us to get as much of the community back to normal operations as we can as quickly as possible. But as the mayor said, and I want to reiterate, this will take time. Okay, so a lot of times we get the question, what do I do if a tornado watch happens? So a couple of things will happen. If we reach a tornado watch, the National Weather Service will send a wireless emergency alert. This is the alert that comes directly to your mobile phone. It causes it to buzz and make an alarm sound. A couple of things you can do. One is you can look around your surroundings, whether you're at work or whether you're at home, and find a sturdy, safe place indoors away from windows. If you get that alert, that's where you want to go. The second thing we want you to do is take a look at your phone, go into your settings, and make sure that you're prepared to receive wireless emergency alerts. We know that when a lot of heavy weather alerts come, people tend to turn those off. We want you to turn those back on for this set. The other things I want you to flag, and we'll hear from PEPCO as well, but we want people to report fallen lines and outages to PEPCO at 1-877-PEPCO-62. We want folks to report non-emergency issues like trees down and trees for removal to 311. If you experience an emergency or you see someone experiencing an emergency, please dial 911. And as the mayor said, please check on your neighbors and loved ones throughout the storm. There's still time for you to sign up for emergency alerts at alert.dc.gov and to enable your wireless emergency alerts on your mobile device. And as always, we ask that you monitor the National Weather Service Baltimore, Washington office and check out our websites, ready.dc.gov, as well as alert.dc.gov to sign up for real-time updates and follow us on social media. I'll turn it over to General Manager Randy Clark from Metro.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Randy Clark, General Manager of Metro. Mayor, thanks for having me, and thanks again for all the great collaboration between the district and Metro. So Metro is also standing up. We have a partial emergency operations center activation this afternoon, mostly concerned around power, trees down, things of that nature. I want to walk through a couple things related to service, though, so the public is aware. Right now, obviously, service is running normal. We hope that will last. As the mayor said, always praying to the weather gods. With that said, we have a couple specific things related to service. On the wind point, if we have sustained wind approaching 65 miles an hour, and sustained basically from 1 minute to 10 minutes, generally sustained winds, we may hold trains at stations. So in theory, a temporary service suspension. What we really do is park trains at stations, keep them safe. We're very concerned about elevated aspects of our rail system. But as you know, our rail system makes up a very large geographical area, not just here in the district. So storm activity in Shady Grove might be significantly different than Franconia, or Ashburn could be significantly different than New Carrollton. So we are going to watch the weather very closely on that. But again, sustained winds 65 miles or above, we are likely to hold rail service at stations until safety allows us to move forward. On the bus side, we are even more concerned about kind of micro weather impacts. So if we have a tornado warning in that area, we are likely to just hold all bus service either at a station or in a very safe place. So both of those things, we want to really watch kind of minute by minute weather conditions. On the Metro Access side, we've already asked customers to reschedule trips, and we've done a lot of those, really trying to avoid as much as possible any Metro Access trips during the times that Clint mentioned. Again, very regional approach to this. We might have very distinctly in different conditions throughout the whole region where we operate. The big thing we want to point out is please follow us on social media, obviously our media partners that are in the room, and Metro Pulse for real-time information. So when it's all said and done, we're going to operate as long as we can safely. We're going to adjust service based on those conditions, but we are always going to make sure it's about the safety of our customers, our employees, and then we'll work, if there are cleanup conditions, with both our partners at PEPCO on the power side and obviously the district and any other regional partners on cleanup. Again, Mayor, thanks for having Metro part of this.
Good afternoon, Sharon Kirschbaum, the Director of the District Department of Transportation. As the other speakers mentioned, while there may be localized flooding, our biggest concern is really down trees due to the severe winds. The District Department of Transportation has 24 certified arborists on our team. They'll be working around the clock, and we have ample emergency contracts to assist with removal. If you see a downed tree, please call 311 or use your 311 app. Details are helpful if you can put a picture in or just clarify if the tree is blocking the sidewalk, partial road closure, full road closure. The teams do triage in terms of how they prioritize to get those removed, but we have ample resources. Depending on the severity, though, it could take some time. So we appreciate your vigilance. And again, 311 is the best front door if you see a down tree. Thanks.
Thank you, Amber. Right. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor Bowser, for having us here today. So, you know, we certainly are focused on coordination and preparations at PEPCO. We know that severe weather events like this can bring a lot of uncertainty for our customers. We are expected and have really been planning for this storm over the last several weeks with our crews, with many of our line and field workers. We are expecting really strong winds, as you've heard from many here, lightning, a heavy rain, possible tornadoes coming through the area. And so this could lead to widespread damage, of course, down trees on power lines, broken poles, and a lot of power outages. So our number one priority is certainly safety and the well-being of our customers that we serve. So we're going to be fully mobilizing our crews here across the district
before, during, and after this storm. This is going to be a serious sort of pattern coming through. In advance of the expected weather, PEPCO has been preparing by, number one, activating enhanced staffing plans. So again, this started well before this weather system is coming through. We've added additional line crews, field personnel, damage assessors, tree crews, and customer care representatives are going to be available with enhanced staffing around the clock. Also, we're coordinating closely with all the local emergency management services that you've heard from, certainly transportation services, just so that we can make sure that we're prepared and fully aligned on our number one priority, again, public safety. We'll be closely monitoring the weather forecasts, storm timing, and positioning our crews' equipment strategically across the service territory. PEPCO is constantly doing work to enhance our customer support and limit the number of outages that may be experienced during the severe weather. However, as we know, no system is fully protected, even with the focus that we have on reliability and safety. So once the storm kind of comes through, we will be assessing restoration and focused on restoration. It is our responsibility and commitment to our customers. I also want to thank our PEPCO crews that started this days ago to really be there to support our customers and our communities. And really many are on standby and ready to help in very, very challenging weather conditions that we're expected to see. So we encourage customers certainly to take steps for their own safety. Make sure that you have powered up your essential devices, your phones. If you have a medical device that depends on electricity, please make sure that you have a backup battery and support for that. Make sure it's fully accessible. Please have a backup plan in the event that your electricity goes out and you have various medical needs. If your power goes out, as we've mentioned, please report it right away on our website. We've got our mobile app, text, phone, all these are available 24/7. Last sort of note, power lines may be down. Again, if they hit wires, power lines will go down. Please do not touch it. Please do not come near those power lines. They're very, very dangerous. Report them immediately. But we at PEPCO are here for you before, during, and after this storm. So thank you, and please stay safe.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a few questions. Any questions? Questions? Yes.
Peterson, ABC News. Given that this storm is supposed to hit between 4 and 6, are you urging people to go home early or consider going home early?
As I mentioned, we have early dismissal for our schools, and I will permit the use of liberal leave for DC government operations, and we are encouraging people to be off the roads. Yes.
Can I just follow up on that? So will you be closing any government services early, like DMV or those offices early, or is this just going to be kind of up to employees if they feel like they need to go home early, they can?
The directors will let us know if they have any staffing issues. My expectation, my hope is that we can maintain services. If we don't have staffing available, we will announce by operation. I should have noted that we will, and I communicated it to the city administrator. I will communicate with our other children serving agency, DPR, that we're going to pull down the DPR activities for the afternoon. Yes.
Are there any areas where crews have already deployed in particular? Are there any areas that any of the departments here want to comment on in terms of being especially vulnerable to trees down, wires down, things like that?
No, I'm not sure. We can deploy pretty quickly. I think PEPCO talked about some pre-deployment. I'll turn to them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Megan Hauser. So we are not seeing any particular areas at this time. Surely we have in the district areas with very large trees, established trees. So we're keeping an eye along parkways, roadways, and certainly, as I mentioned, we have enhanced our teams for tree trimming so they can be on site very quickly to get those trees off the lines and get our lines restored. So our focus really is on making sure that our field and line workers and tree trimming services are available very quickly and positioned throughout the city for quick response.
Yes.
Just to follow up, I think oftentimes people don't understand kind of the operations. Obviously, every situation is different, but just explain it. Can you talk about the process of like actually removing the trees first and how that's a priority? Because once it happens, I think people just want it to get fixed, so they don't understand kind of the timeline that your crews are doing. So if you could just explain that.
In terms of the process, is that your question? So a lot of times, so first, our focus is always safety first. And so when we're looking at the areas across the city that are most severely impacted, we typically will have line watchers that are going out, letting us know exactly where power lines are down, where there are the most impactful or severe. And then our crews will go out to actually cut those, trees off the line. In terms of the actual process, it is a lot of safety. We put up all the safety precautions and cones. We want to make sure that no one actually goes into those areas as we're doing our work. So the focus is always on our safety first. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm thinking back to 2023, it was a pretty big summer storm that resulted in several days, if not longer, people being without power, particularly in neighborhoods like Palisades, where there are a lot of older, bigger trees. What should people be preparing for as far as maybe a duration of how long power might go out and it might take to restore? Are we looking at, are you fearful that it might be as bad as it was in 2023, where I don't know if it was as long as a week that people were without power, certainly.
Well, Mark, it is impossible for me to answer that question. We hope that it passes us by. In that case that you're referring to, I believe it was a microburst that went through a neighborhood, and it was terrible for those neighbors for that time that it was out. It was a lot of property damage. People had to move out of their homes, in some cases to rebuild, but it was very concentrated. So we have no idea how these winds will present, if they will drop in a neighborhood, if they will go through the whole city, or it could pass us by. So what we're doing is getting prepared. I understand we're still under a tornado warning, and if it escalates toward tornado watch, then I think our expectation of damage also goes up.
We were just hearing from officials in Washington, D.C. giving a press conference as some severe weather is moving into the area. Thanks for watching live now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi, taking over here for Andy Mack the next few hours. A live look at Capitol Hill right now as we step away for a 2-minute break. When we come back, we have an update on the operations in the Middle East. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. Let's show you a live look at the White House tonight. And we are continuing to cover the latest on the situation in the Middle East. President Trump saying that the U.S. military has, quote, obliterated Iran, striking more than 7,000 targets in just over 2 weeks. But now more than 2,000 Marines are heading to the Middle East, and the Trump administration is calling on its allies and other countries to help them secure the Strait of Hormuz. It is a vital oil shipping lane right off of Iran's coast. We have Fox's Chelsea Torres live in New York for us. Chelsea, are any other countries willing to team up with the U.S. on this?
Hi, Shauna. Well, President Trump is demanding about 7 countries to form this coalition, send warships to secure the Strait of Hormuz, where, mind you, many ships have stopped passing through, concerned about Iranian attacks. But Trump did specifically mention NATO allies who should be stepping up.
I think we're going to have the situation straighten out pretty quickly, and I think we're going to have some good help, and I think we're going to be disappointed in some nations too. And I'll let you know who those nations are.
20% of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Since the conflict began, crude oil has topped $100 for the first time in years. It's come down from those peaks, but remains way higher than before the conflict began. Administration officials insist oil prices will fall once this ends. But right now, they say Iran is using threats against the strait as, quote, an economic weapon. Here at home, several protests popped up around New York City over the weekend. Many Iranian Americans say they support Iran's freedom from the regime. And here now on day 16, U.S. Central Command says they're still focused on eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and Navy. And when asked about the latest negotiations with Iran, Trump says that he still has no idea who's running things over there, and even questioned whether the country's newly named supreme leader is even alive. Shauna.
All right, thank you so much, Chelsea, for that report. Of course, we are going to continue following the latest here on Live Now from Fox. We also have this tweet from the German chancellor talking about President Trump calling for other countries to help with securing the Strait of Hormuz. He says, "We will not participate in ensuring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz by military means. The war in the Middle East is not a matter for NATO. Therefore, Germany will also not become involved militarily." So some countries starting to speak out after President Trump is calling on allies and others to help secure the Strait of Hormuz. We know that conflicts in that area and some blockades of the strait have caused oil prices to soar here in the U.S. Now, for more on the situation in the Middle East, we have Fox's Jennifer Griffin talking about the U.S. military deploying additional assets to the Middle East as those concerns rise over accessibility through the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump saying the U.S. has the strategic waterway in, quote, very good shape. Let's get to Fox Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin with the latest.
Late Friday, with oil markets closed, CENTCOM unleashed waves of missiles and warplanes for 2 hours, hitting 90 military targets on Karg Island, Iran's main oil export hub. For now, President Trump says he's decided to spare Iran's oil infrastructure.
This is a paper tiger that we're dealing with.
Whose drones, mines, and missiles have virtually closed the Strait of Hormuz. Only 15 laden cargo vessels passed through the strait from February 28th to March 12th.
This is something that's been war gamed for a very long time. There was probably some policy thinking that based on the weakness of the Iranian regime, that they would not resort to shutting down the Straits of Hormuz.
The Pentagon is now sending 5,000 sailors and Marines based in Japan with an amphibious assault ship, USS Tripoli. But it will take at least 10 more days to arrive. It brings additional aircraft to strike targets inland and going after Iranian small boats.
It gives the option to go in and establish like a beachhead while we pull larger forces into the region.
The U.S. military has long had plans on how it would keep the Strait of Hormuz open in these circumstances. General Joe Vautel says he wishes the U.S. had built a coalition sooner.
Some of them have some very unique capabilities, but those are kinds of things that have to start early. We have to bring them into this and then try to meld that all into this coalition.
Some question why the Marine Expeditionary Unit was not deployed earlier to the Middle East, since CENTCOM warned that Iran would close the strait if threatened. Bottom line, the U.S. Navy is stretched thin with assets deployed to the Caribbean and not wanting to leave a vacuum in the Pacific. In Washington, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
That was Jennifer Griffin reporting on those additional military assets now being sent to the Middle East. More than 2,000 Marines heading to the Middle East to assist with those operations there. We also have an update from U.S. Central Command on Operation Epic Fury. We will play that out for you right after this 2-minute break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We are following the latest developments out of the Middle East. U.S. Central Command posting this video showing a strike. This was posted a little bit earlier this morning, saying thousands of Iranian military targets have been struck by U.S. forces to neutralize threats posed by the Iranian regime now and into the future. So Central Command putting out that video earlier today. Also, the commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, posting this update also this morning on Operation Epic Fury in Iran.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of U.S. Central Command, here to provide another update on Operation Epic Fury. First, I want to remember and honor our fallen warriors who made the ultimate sacrifice in the KC-135 refueling aircraft incident last week. We hold their memories and their families, their friends and their teammates in our prayers. Their selfless service and dedication hardens our resolve. For 16 days, we've delivered overwhelming firepower deep into Iran. This past Friday, U.S. forces executed a large-scale precision strike on Karg Island, destroying more than 90 Iranian military targets, including storage bunkers for naval mines and missiles and other military infrastructure. To date, our Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps aviators have collectively flown more than 6,000 combat flights, demonstrating the unmatched capability of America's joint force as we maintain air superiority over Iranian skies. We continue to remain centered on our military objectives. These are well-defined and include eliminating Iran's ballistic missiles, drones, and naval threats. It's one thing to defend by striking launchers and intercepting missiles and drones, but it's another thing to eliminate the wider manufacturing apparatus behind them. And we are doing that today. We've talked about it in concept. Here's what it looks like in reality. Let me show you, for the first time, a few examples of how we are dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent threats to the region into the future. Here, you see a photo from March 1st of a naval drone storage facility located near the Strait of Hormuz. This is the same location, 8 days later, completely destroyed. Next, here's a photo taken of an attack drone production factory in Tehran on March 5th. Here's that same factory 6 days later after a devastating barrage of U.S. airstrikes. And finally, the Yazdi military depot, pictured here last month. These 8 buildings are part of the IRGC's missile command infrastructure and are used to produce light and heavyweight torpedoes. Now, here's that same military depot just last week, or what's left of it. U.S. and partner strikes are doing exactly what they are intended to do, deliver on very clear military objectives to eliminate Iran's ability to project power against Americans and against its neighbors. We're also zeroed in on dismantling Iran's decades-old threat to the free flow of commerce through the Strait of Hormuz. Through a combination of air, land, and maritime capabilities, we have successfully destroyed over 100 Iranian naval vessels, and we aren't done. We will continue to rapidly deplete Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Our progress remains steady, and we remain vigilant against the enemy. Now, a few thoughts about Iran. Over the last 2 weeks, they have launched attacks on Oman, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan, Cyprus, Turkey, Azerbaijan, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain. In each of these countries, they are deliberately attacking innocent civilians. They've done this more than 300 times, which demonstrates their true nature as a global leader of terror. In just the last few days, the Iranian regime launched a reckless attack against civilian neighborhoods in Tel Aviv with cluster bombs, an inherently indiscriminate type of munition. We join countries across the region in condemning this aggression, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with our partners in bolstering our own defenses. In sum, I will reinforce what I've said before. Iran's capabilities are declining as our capabilities and advantages continue to build. And finally, I'd like to talk about the extraordinary 50,000 Americans who are deployed across the region executing this vital mission. It's long been my belief that every success we have begins and ends with our people. And today I'd like to recognize our unsung heroes, the sustainers enabling America's joint force to unleash this devastating firepower 24/7. To be clear, there's no other military on earth that does logistics like the U.S. military, and our team is at the top of their game today. They're managing distribution networks that span thousands of miles to ensure that munitions, fuel, and supplies reach warfighters on the front line on time, every time. To all our sustainers and logisticians, thank you and keep up the great work. And to the entire Operation Epic Fury team, keep pushing, remain steady, fight to win. Thanks so much and Godspeed.
That was Central Command Admiral Brad Cooper giving an update on Operation Epic Fury, the military operations in Iran. Now, the Trump administration is also issuing a warning to broadcasters over their coverage of the Iran war. That message, however, drawing criticism from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Fox's Mike Emanuel has more.
As the strikes on Iran continue, there's a battle here at home over messaging. On Saturday, FCC Chair Brendan Carr warned broadcasters that they could lose their licenses for running what the agency considers fake news over the Iran conflict. In a post on X, he wrote they, quote, have a chance now to correct course before their license renewals come up. President Trump later endorsed the warning shot on Truth Social, but he's facing pushback from some lawmakers in his own party who say they are not in favor of government interference with free speech.
I do not like the heavy hand of government, no matter who's wielding it. The federal government stay out of the private sector as much as possible. And really, the federal government's role is to protect our freedoms, protect our constitutional rights.
In a letter, Democratic Senator Ed Markey went one step further and called for Carr to resign, writing, quote, "The FCC's credibility depends on its willingness to exercise its authority on the merits, not at the direction of the president." Carr says there are no immediate efforts to reassess licenses, but there are ongoing investigations that could serve as a reason for early renewal, including one looking at equal time rules for interviews with political candidates.
I think it's important that we hold broadcasters accountable to their public interest obligations, and that's what we're doing at the agency.
While the FCC does not license national networks, it does license local stations that carry their programming. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
That was Mike Emanuel reporting on the FCC stepping in about coverage of the Iran war to broadcasters. We'll continue to follow that, bring you any developments that come. Let's take another 2-minute break. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. A live look at Capitol Hill tonight. The Trump administration and Congress still failing to fund Homeland Security. This is hitting home not just for TSA workers at crowded airports who have now missed an entire paycheck over the weekend. This partial government shutdown continuing. We have Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively with the latest from Reagan National Airport in Virginia.
Security lines getting longer by the minute at many U.S. airports, 1 month since TSA agents received a full paycheck.
These men and women are showing up. They're not getting paid week after week. They only make about $35,000 a year on average. It's just terrible.
Since February 14th, congressional Democrats have refused to approve the DHS budget until Republicans agree to reform immigration enforcement. But that means essential workers at TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, and the Secret Service are all showing up for work with no pay.
To be quite frank, officers are pissed off. And we're not just talking about here in Atlanta, we're talking about nationwide.
Now the war in Iran is putting officers at an unfunded Homeland Security Department on high alert. At least 3 incidents over the last week are being investigated as potential terror attacks inspired by the war.
It's exactly the wrong time to be doing this. It's the wrong time any time to be doing this, but particularly now.
Besides no funding, DHS also has no leader. President Trump fired DHS Secretary Kristi Noem on March 5th. Nominee Markwayne Mullin has his confirmation hearing on Wednesday.
We've got to get reforms first. Markwayne's got a lot of respect in the Senate, so he's honest and not corrupt like Noem was.
Markwayne is a strong conservative, but he is also somebody that talks to both sides of the aisle.
Mullin will certainly face questions about the fate of TSA agents. This is the second time in 4 months they've had to work with no pay. At Reagan National Airport, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
And we'll have more on those impacts that we're seeing at our local airports. We have a live report coming up right after this 2-minute break. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. Another live look at Capitol Hill right now, as we are now more than a month into the partial government shutdown, and travelers are feeling the impact, facing long security lines at airports across the country. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says 300 TSA agents have quit, and call-outs have doubled as those employees have gone without their first full paycheck now. And we have Fox's Kaylee Schuyler, who is live at the Nashville International Airport. Kaylee, those travelers today are facing a number of battles getting to their destinations.
It's a whole combination of issues, Shauna. So first, we've seen severe weather today, and that's causing delays and cancellations across the country. But also, there are more people at airports than usual because of spring break travel. And then top that with this month-long DHS funding lapse, and that means that there are fewer agents at the security checkpoints at airports across the country. Today, according to FlightAware, there are more than 10,000 delayed flights and more than 4,000 cancellations across the country. And travelers I spoke with say it's manageable if you head out early, but they are thinking about the government shutdown.
I blame the politicians. Yeah, I don't know if it's Trump or Washington, whoever. It's ridiculous.
I think we should continue the shutdown until we get some movement from the GOP and actually get to some sort of agreement that is good for the population.
U.S. airlines say it's way past time for Congress to pass a DHS funding bill. The lobbying group Airlines for America releasing a statement saying in part, quote, TSA officers just received $0 paychecks. That is simply unacceptable. It's difficult, if not impossible, to put food on the table, put gas in the car, and pay rent when you are not getting paid. With spring break travel in full swing, FIFA World Cup 2026 right around the corner, and celebrations for America's 250th birthday throughout the year, the stakes are especially high. DHS funding lapsed on February 14th. Airlines say they're trying to help travelers when they can by holding flights for delayed passengers and helping people rebook when necessary. But they say only action from Congress can truly solve the problem. Airlines for America expects a record 171 million passengers to travel this spring. But right now, travelers are worried about missing their flights because of long lines, and workers are worried about making ends meet while they're showing up without getting paid.
These men and women are showing up. They're not getting paid week after week. They only make about $35,000 a year on average. It's just.
Industry experts recommend if you can fly out of a smaller airport, try to do that. But if you have to fly out of a major hub, get there much earlier than you typically would. And it's also getting so bad that some airports in, Denver and Cleveland and Las Vegas, just to name a few, are actually asking passengers to bring donations and gift cards to give to the workers who aren't being paid right now. Shauna?
All right, thank you so much, Kaylee, for that report from the Nashville airport. If you are going to be flying out, definitely check with your airline, get there extra early. We appreciate it. And now we want to get to a press conference with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries today, announcing that House Dems will launch a discharge petition to fund all of DHS but ICE. Representative Jeffries is speaking about this as well as the situation in the Middle East during his press conference a little bit earlier today. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of House Democrats, let me just begin by communicating our sincere thoughts and prayers to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles as it relates to her diagnosis. And of course, we'll support her in any way possible as she battles through this diagnosis and returns back to work in full and complete health. This is a very challenging moment for the United States of America as we deal with a president, Donald Trump, and Republicans whose policies have done nothing but damage the quality of life of the American people. It was Republicans who, in their one big ugly bill, enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing throughout America because of Republican policies, and at the same period of time, these extremists refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, causing health insurance premiums to skyrocket for more than 20 million working-class Americans. Republicans have done great damage to the American people, made life more expensive for everyday Americans, on health care, on gas prices, on housing costs, on child care, on groceries. They've made life more expensive for the American people, and it's affirmatively being done by toxic and extreme Republican policies. And to make matters worse, at the same period of time, they've now gotten us into a reckless war of choice against Iran and are spending billions of dollars to drop bombs in the Middle East, but can't find a dime to make life more affordable for the American people. There's a better way, and Democrats are committed to fighting hard, to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, making sure that immigration enforcement in this country is fair, just, and humane. And at the same time, ensuring that our taxpayer dollars aren't spent on another endless war in the Middle East, but are spent to lower the high cost of living, to make sure that every single American in this country can live an affordable life, a comfortable life, and live the good life. Questions?
Good afternoon. Republicans ran on border security in 2024. They largely attribute some of their victories to that. Do you think that with the SAVE Act in front of the Senate that there is a risk for Democrats? Because we see all this polling that it favors their side, that people want this in spite of the problems you have with this. Is there a risk for Democrats to have that backfire on them considering their opposition?
No, we've repeatedly made clear that the administration of elections are to be done as per the United States Constitution. This was an intentional choice that the framers of this country made, that the administration of elections are to be done at the state and local level. And states are free to make the determination as to what type of requirement there should be to ensure that elections are free and fair. Now, the United States Constitution also makes clear that only citizens can vote. That's a constitutional requirement. And states are free to implement that requirement as best they see fit. In New York State, for instance, there are strong voter identification requirements that have been embraced by both Democrats and Republicans. This is a phony issue that Donald Trump is creating. What's amazing to me is that Donald Trump had the nerve to say to the Speaker of the House, who apparently didn't object, that the most important thing that Republicans should focus on is voter suppression legislation. And that housing doesn't matter, health care doesn't matter, grocery bills doesn't matter, the fact that Republicans are jacking up gas prices doesn't matter, electricity bills through the roof because of Republican policies in the one big ugly bill doesn't matter. This is extraordinary stuff, and it's the reason why Donald Trump Republican policies and their candidates are so deeply unpopular all across the country and are losing elections, as has been the case for 15 consecutive months.
Two questions. Do you see any progress on DHS negotiations? And number two, on a defense supplemental, I mean, how do you, I know you're probably against it, but how do you think that all that's going?
Well, first, as it relates to the Department of Homeland Security, we've repeatedly made clear, Democrats in both the House and the Senate, that we should fund the TSA, fund Coast Guard, fund CISA, fund FEMA, fund every other aspect of the Department of Homeland Security that doesn't have to do with ICE or Donald Trump and Republicans' toxic deportation machine that the American people are rejecting. And for whatever the reason, Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down the whole thing than actually deal with a situation where we get ICE under control. And the American people know that ICE is totally out of control. And the only thing that will change it are things that can be built into the law that are bold, meaningful, and dramatic that Democrats have proposed, including, but not limited to, judicial warrant requirements before ICE agents can go breaking into the homes of American people and then ripping them out of their homes in the middle of the night. Unacceptable. An explicit prohibition is necessary on sensitive locations. ICE agents en masse who are poorly trained should not be able to target houses of worship, hospitals, schools, and polling locations. We need to make sure that state and local officials can actually criminally investigate ICE agents who violate state and local laws. There's no such thing as people having a free pass in the United States of America. We just want ICE to conduct itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country.
So you don't see any progress in the talk?
Well, you know, we continue to have dialogue, House and Senate Democrats with the White House, in exchanging offers and counteroffers. And we're ready, willing, and able to find a bipartisan path forward. But the changes made have to be bold, they have to be meaningful, they have to be transformational. We can no longer allow the situation as it exists with ICE agents unleashing brutality on the American people, killing in cold blood American citizens, and violently targeting law-abiding immigrant families. And all of this is being done with a $75 billion slush fund that Republicans built into their one big ugly bill, while ripping Medicaid and health care away from everyday Americans, and at the same time snatching food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans. Make it make sense for the American people, because it does not. Now, on the supplemental issue, listen, the administration has not even made the case to the American people as to why we are spending billions of dollars and dropping bombs every day in Iran, while at the same period of time doing nothing about the affordability crisis, which Donald Trump continues to insist is a hoax. It's not a hoax. I travel the country. People are struggling throughout America to achieve the American dream. Many people have understandably concluded it is out of reach, and we have to restore it. And instead, you've got the administration without any plan, any objective, any exit strategy, has gotten us into this reckless war of choice in the Middle East. So the notion that they would come up here and ask for additional money is beyond the pale at this moment. Start by explaining why we're in this to begin with, because they failed in that regard.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leader. Airlines for America and a group of the major U.S. airline CEOs sent an open letter to Congress yesterday asking Congress to reach a deal to end the shutdown. They also demanded legislation to, pay for aviation officials, TSA workers, all the folks who aren't getting paid right now within the aviation space. Is that something that you will support going forward once we're past this shutdown? Do you think that, in the midst of shutdown, TSA workers, all the folks who are being affected right now should be exempt from not getting paid as they're going to work on paychecks?
We think that TSA agents should absolutely be paid, and it's a shame that Republicans have decided to use TSA agents and other DHS employees outside of their toxic immigration agenda space as political pawns. Like House and Senate Democrats have repeatedly made clear, we should fund TSA, fund FEMA, fund the Coast Guard, fund cybersecurity operations within the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans in the House and the Senate have rejected it. They're playing games, as they always do. So that's why on Wednesday we're going to launch this discharge petition. It's the first day that it becomes ripe to advance Congresswoman Rosa DeLaura's bill. And we'll just need a handful of Republicans to join us. And guess what? Despite all the cynicism, all the skepticism that has existed throughout this Congress, as if Democrats were knocked on our back heels, we've repeatedly won discharge petitions. And if it comes to it, we're going to win this one as well. And so, to me, we can do this the easy way. Why doesn't Mike Johnson and Republicans just agree to put the bill on the floor? It will pass overwhelmingly. Or we can go down the discharge petition route again, and Republicans can once again demonstrate that they've lost control of the House floor and that Democrats are governing in the minority on behalf of the American people as if we're in the majority.
So, Illinois primary tomorrow, as we saw in New Jersey 11, North Carolina.
Let me ask you a question. Did you ask me, did you have a question about New Jersey 4?
I'm asking.
What was your question about New Jersey 4?
New Jersey 4?
North Carolina 4.
If you would endorse Nida Elam if she won the primary.
And what happened in that primary?
She lost. Okay. But I'm asking about outside groups.
Okay.
As we saw in New Jersey 11, as we saw in North Carolina 4, the largest spender in all 4 of these House primaries and the Senate primary, outside groups, AIPAC and their affiliated PACs, crypto companies, AI companies. Do you have an issue with how much these outside groups are spending compared to the candidates? I
think what we need to do is to end Citizens United. And Democrats are prepared to do everything we can when we're in the majority, connected to H.R. 1, which we've done twice now, when we've previously been in the majority, to change the dynamics. There's far too much money outside money across the board being spent in elections that should be determined by the candidates and the case that they can individually make to the American people. And this was all unleashed by Citizens United, which we will continue to strongly oppose.
Mr. Leader, Ms. Leader.
When it comes to the Iran conflict, obviously, I mean, you all have been advocating through the War Powers Resolution and so forth and end hostilities. But even if you withdraw at this point, it's very clear that Iran is going to continue to deal with the Strait of Hormuz. So what, if anything, do you see as the off-ramp here, and what are Democrats willing to engage with if Iran comes back later and starts re-engaging in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, part of the problem is that, the administration failed to prepare for this reckless war of choice. They failed to prepare for Iran's actions in the Strait of Hormuz. They failed to prepare as it relates to the fact that thousands of Americans were stranded for days, if not weeks, in the Middle East with no plan by the State Department to evacuate American citizens in a very challenging region where there are now more than 12 countries that have been plunged into this conflict as a result of what began with Donald Trump's reckless decision to spend billions of dollars to drop bombs in the Middle East. There's no plan of action as it relates to the fact that all of these countries are now involved in terms of what could have been predicted as it relates to Iran's response, particularly connected to the Gulf states. And now it's a challenging environment in terms of this not devolving into a conflict that doesn't simply go on for weeks, but months or years. This was a clear failure, and rather than the so-called Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history, rather than him complaining about news media coverage and actually suggesting, weighing in favor of a merger so he can create some kind of state television situation, which, by the way, all Pete Hegseth and the FCC commissioner and others chair are doing is putting a target on the backs of these mergers. It's an irresponsible thing for them to do, even if they're trying to bring these things about, because now the scrutiny level is just going to increase exponentially. That's what Pete Hegseth has accomplished. That's what the chair of the FCC has accomplished. As opposed to complaining about media coverage for their deeply unpopular war of choice in the Middle East, perhaps they should actually plan to keep American troops, men and women, safe. Because clearly that has not happened to the degree that it needs to.
Regarding Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, he has confirmation hearings coming up on Wednesday. Based on what you know of him, have you had conversations with him? And if so, or if not, what do you expect from a Secretary Mullen? And do you think that will cause a breakthrough in negotiations?
Yeah, I have not had any conversations with him relative to this nomination. I'm certainly interested in hearing what he has to say when he testifies publicly before the Senate. But our position has also been clear, and I articulated this in a letter to the caucus earlier today. A change in personnel, as disgraceful as Kristi Noem was, and it's not over in terms of our scrutiny of Kristi Noem, because she's super corrupt, wasting hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. And so accountability is further coming her way. It's a long list of them, but it's further coming her way. That a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. We need dramatic, bold, meaningful, and transformational changes so that ICE conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country, that they behave like local police officers, state troopers, or county sheriffs, as opposed to running around using taxpayer dollars to brutalize and kill American citizens or violently target law-abiding immigrant families. The American people have had enough, and Democrats are going to continue to stand up for that principle.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. You said that as of right now, it's beyond the pale that the administration would come and request more supplemental funding. But if you were to have a briefing where you received an explanation you felt adequate, they need more money to support the troops, what would you consider about that funding be put in a
It's
reconciliation?
beyond the pale right now that the administration is even floating the notion that they want to come to Congress, who they've chosen to ignore, meaning they've chosen to ignore the American people, didn't want to make their case to the American people. It's one of the reasons why the war is so deeply unpopular right now, out of the gate. By the way, this has never happened before. But the American people see so clearly through the consequences of this failed effort to plunge America into a war with no strategy, no objective, and no end game, that it is beyond the pale that the administration is now floating the possibility of coming to Congress and asking for tens of billions of dollars more in taxpayer dollars. How about spending some money to restore the Medicaid cuts that have ripped health care away from more than 14 million Americans? How about finding a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits? Let's start there so we can restore health care insurance affordability for more than 20 million Americans. How about doing something about the skyrocketing costs of gasoline prices because of what Donald Trump has done in the Middle East? How about actually walking away from the reckless Trump tariffs that have imposed thousands of dollars in additional costs on everyday Americans? This administration has been a complete and total disaster, a man-made disaster, inflicting pain and suffering on the American people. And so there are a whole lot of things that need to be dealt with before we can, in good conscience, evaluate any hypothetical supplemental funding request that is presented to the Congress. Thank you, everyone.
How far can Rod Strickland take LIU?
First of all, let me just say.
Don't talk about St. John's.
Let me just say, listen, well, I root for the Big East in the NCAA, so I am rooting for UConn, I'm rooting for Villanova, but St. John's was robbed with a number 5 seeding. There's no justification for that, but we're very excited about St. John's. We're very excited about LIU, which is in my district, and very excited about Hofstra, which is just outside of the city.
And UConn. You didn't mention Miami of Ohio.
And UConn.
Well, it's a great story.
What's up, brother?
That was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries delivering remarks at that press conference talking about the partial government shutdown now more than a month in, also speaking about military operations in the Middle East. Let's step away for a 2-minute break. We have more when we come back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We are tracking weather for you across the country. Several areas are dealing with their own forms of severe weather. A big snowstorm hitting the upper Midwest and the East Coast, and now also dealing with a potentially historic storm of their own. Let's listen into Fox weather with their broadcast just a few minutes ago, covering the latest all across the country.
Hey, welcome inside Fox Weather Live. I'm Steve Benner. We've got a dramatic clash of the season that's underway tonight. Winter is roaring back into the Great Lakes in the Midwest. But then we have the severe storms that are gliding along the East Coast, and we have seen some updates. So here's what you need to know as of this hour. The storms are reloading again tonight. We've got over 80 million people back in the risk. We have state records for snow totals that have been broken in multiple states. And then the cold front, the catalyst to so much of this, is triggering a 40 to 50 degree temperature drop. It's a lot to unfold. Let's talk more about what we are seeing this as it translates to travel. Here's the big board. Over 10,000 flights that were delayed. Nearly 4,500 flights that have been canceled. And when you look at it, it's all the major airports in different regions. Atlanta and Chicago representing that. Look at the Southeast, right? Where, for the most part, it looks quiet as of this point, but the misery dial is just cranked up. Where you're getting predominantly most of the delays for today coming out of areas like the Southeast. Now, as we shift our focus into Chicago, their big impact was, of course, the blizzard that we saw yesterday, again today, and their misery index a level 4. But it's not just flying. That's what's important to know. If you are driving, you'll notice this orange stripe right here from northern Wisconsin down through Sheboygan. That's hazardous driving conditions because they've had state records that have been broken in that area with over 30 inches of snow during this event. Now, we're not doing all of this from just Fox headquarters. We have an entire team that's unpacking it, especially on the winter side, because that was a bona fide blizzard. It's been verified time and time again. That's what it looks like outside. It's like you're in the teeth of a snow hurricane. We have our teams that are out and about showing you all of this. We have Katie, who's in Richmond, Virginia, just outside of a severe thunderstorm warning. We have Jane, that has been fighting that blizzard in Traverse City, where they have a public safety announcement saying the amount of snow tonight is going to be a problem. And then, of course, our 2 exclusive storm trackers that are out in the field, kind of showing us all of this underway. There's so much of this to get into. Let's get you caught up on everything that's happened today. But I'm going to show you both sides of this storm in one view. Traverse City rocking and thumping right now with their blizzard, and it's -1. That's what it feels like right now. Raleigh-Durham, RDU, had a 55-mile-per-hour gust registered today, and it's still rocking around. And I tell you, if you're trying to be on an airplane right now, I'd go over to the desk real quickly and be like, hey, you got a voucher? I'll take the voucher. I'll give up my seat. I'll come back tomorrow. Much better opportunity to fly out again tomorrow. Here is the spot that's severe in the mid-Atlantic. Notice most of this is warned for 60-mile-per-hour wind. On the northern side of that is Richmond. That's where we have Katie Burns. She's going to join us here in a moment. Stay tuned for that. Also, as I told you, we have a bunch of different kind of layers to this storm. You get over to that QR code on the edge of your screen, and what you're able to see out of that is the latest updates, whether it's the blizzard, whether it's the severe threat, maybe it's the flood threat for New England, maybe it's the temperature drop, the ice threat that persists with that, or maybe you're thinking about the extreme coast-to-coast weather that we've had. Did you hear about the desert Southwest shattering records and likely to get even warmer this week? The Kona Low in Hawaii setting rain records. There's a lot to talk about. You'll find it all there on the QR code. What we're talking about here on Fox Weather Live are those thunderstorms blitzing through the mid-Atlantic, creating these type of storm reports. But now we're watching this shift underway. Tornado watches have been lifted, but the winter side is here. I'm going to shift our focus to the north. Look at this white stripe. That is actually potent snow that's moving through areas like Erie, down through Pittsburgh, into Charleston. There's actually a discussion that's underway talking about the concern about 1 to 2 inch snowfall rate. That's where you get that blinding snow that comes down in these areas. We do have visuals of this. We can just show it to you right now. They're still sitting, or at least what you can see of it. Did you know that Steel City has the most bridges out of any metropolitan area in the entire country? Why is that important? A bridge is elevated surface. Those are the ones that freeze over the quickest. And that's the ones that's going to stack up the snow. But once you stack up the snow and somebody drives over it, it compresses all of that water, and then it gets slushy, and then it freezes over, right? That's a threat unique to Pittsburgh. We're talking about it. We're showing it to you. And then we go north of there, where you get up into spots like Buffalo, where it looks like you're in the Millennium Falcon, right? It looks like Star Wars is underway. You're getting an intense snow burst that's coming in. I can show that to you on radar. But what I think is impressive is this. I'm going to shift our focus on radar. Look at the difference between Buffalo and Watertown. Normally, they're in the same event. It's 150, 60 miles difference, right? But it's the Great Lakes. And you're expecting if one's getting snow, the other's getting snow. No, Watertown is getting rain, which seems even more of an anomaly because they're further to the north, and you have the Tug Hill Plateau. But yeah, that just shows you the sharp cutoff that's underway. But they're not the only spot in the Great Lakes. We mentioned Traverse City, right? So there's the snow, but then we focus into Traverse City, and it looks like the Mid-Michigan, we're done with this event, right? No, not the case. You have this one little band because the wind is set up out of the north, and Traverse City is under the bullseye of that snow. But you look at over the past 12 hours, that's it, limited time. The blizzard happened yesterday and earlier today. 12 hours, you're stacking up over a foot in Grawn, Lake Ann, and then you get some spots that are getting 2 feet of snow. Look at Presque Isle. They're getting about 4/10 of an inch of freezing rain and ice that's coming down. So again, the juxtaposition or the sharp cutoff, those 3 slashes, freezing rain. You go a little further to the west, you get the snowflakes and the big snow. Just shows you the difference underway. As we pull back, though, there's a lot that will continue on. This is a short-range model. I put it into motion. We're not getting until tomorrow morning until this thing calms down. All right, one of those spots that we stopped on the radar tour was Richmond. Now, we get you out towards Fairfax County, and they've gotten blasted with rain. But the big talk into today was the damaging wind event possible, especially for the Mid-Atlantic. If you've been with us for the past 2 hours, I've been talking candidly with Katie about my family. They're chirping me. But now it's time to talk about Katie about what's happening just west of you. You probably have gotten that on your radar, Katie, that we got a severe thunderstorm warning just to the outer edge of where you're at.
Yeah, still no rain here for a stretch of a few hours, though, Steve. But we did have some spotty showers, occasional downpours earlier in the day. Still, the tornado threat that we were really watching ended up fizzling out for us pretty early. It got canceled for not only the Richmond area, but major cities, D.C. and Baltimore. This got some people talking because we had, of course, schools sending kids home early for the day in the D.C. and Baltimore areas. But here in Richmond, kids actually didn't have school at all. Schools made that call the night before because of the severe weather risk we were looking at. Initially was looking like a level 4 out of 5, and then it turned out to just fizzle out. That tornado watch was dropped for us. Still, though, stayed in effect for parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. At this point, though, no tornado watches. Still, though, you mentioned the severe thunderstorm that we're monitoring to the west, I believe you said, of where I am, or south. We know there is still the potential for a severe thunderstorm watch to be issued. That's what the National Weather Service is saying up until about 10 o'clock tonight. So something to keep your eye out for if you're in the area. Not exactly something where you want to just totally take your guard down, because this is a storm with multiple components. We had, of course, the warm side of it with the severe threat, but now I'm feeling those temperatures actually cool down. So we watched the damage done in parts of the south. We could see down trees outside of Atlanta. This is about 25 miles east of the city. Crews responded to that there. And then, of course, major travel disruptions because of the weather all across the East Coast, really. But the worst situations we saw unfold at airports LaGuardia and Reagan National over in D.C., not far from us, where officials were warning people to take this seriously. We've been talking to people on the ground here in Richmond about their thoughts when it comes to those school closures. 2 for 2, people believe it maybe wasn't necessary at the end of the day. Kids had no school today because of the severe weather. What do you think? Does that surprise you?
Yes, because back then, 10, 15 years ago, school was always open.
They canceled school today. I just thought it was going to be raining super hard, a lot of thunder, but it wasn't really much. I've been at work all day, and it just been a little drizzle from here and there.
At the the end of the day, it is the best case scenario that we didn't see a level 4 out of 5 risk play out with tornadoes and damaging winds. That was initially the concern. Still, now a lot of people are talking about how temperatures are all over the place. You just don't know to where. It's getting cooler. I can feel those winds picking up. We actually almost hit the 70s today in Richmond, but then as we get into the overnight hours, we're going to be near freezing. So all over the place, it's one of those weeks where you have to have the rain jacket, the winter jacket, everything out, because you won't know until you step outside, Steve.
And what's wild, Katie, is that this is right on the heels of the historic event from last week where they got to 90 degrees, a record high for spots like Richmond, and then plummeted and got snow the next morning or midday. And so it just shows you the month of March can be reloaded real quickly. It's not just a one and done type of weather whiplash. And I can even hear for you, the wind's starting to pick up. Yeah, it's just to your west.
Picking up.
That's starting to come through. So we're going to get you inside so you can get safe throughout this event. Katie, thank you for that update from Richmond, Virginia. Now, that's one side of this storm. Remember, there's another side, and this one has been robust, and truly, it's actually outperformed what we thought it would do. I mean, state records have dropped in Michigan and Wisconsin because the amount of snow from this blizzard. And look at Traverse City. Snow still coming down, still set up off of Lake Michigan and Lake Superior. Breeze 23 miles an hour. Feels like -1. Don't go anywhere. We've got much more to talk about after the break.
That was Fox Weather with their coverage of that severe weather hitting much of the U.S., the upper Midwest, as well as the East Coast, dealing with some severe weather warnings right now. And you can scan this QR code on your screen to get the Fox Weather app and stay up to date on all of the latest weather conditions across the country. Just scan that QR code to download the app for free right now. We're going to take another 2-minute break. We have more to get to when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. This is a live look at the White House on this Monday evening. Law enforcement agencies across the country are on high alert, warning about elevated terror threats here in the U.S. during the conflict with Iran. And Jewish communities in particular are increasing their security after an attack at a Michigan synagogue last week. We have Fox's Amalia Roy live in Phoenix for us with more on how these Jewish leaders are working to help protect their communities. Amalia?
Good evening, Shauna. Security continues to be a presence at synagogues across the country, but I also spoke with a Jewish nonprofit about the ways they're working to keep their own community safe. These volunteers are training for a moment they hope never comes, having to put their lives between an attacker and their synagogue.
Magen Am, the shield of the nation. And we are here to make sure that you don't get through.
Valerie Smilovic is part of a Jewish nonprofit called Magen Am, an organization that provides security training for members of their community. The group has branches in Los Angeles, Orange County, and Phoenix.
Since the Pittsburgh shooting, American Jewry, to some degree, has got the memo that they need to do some type of proactive security. It's about 7 years ago, and we kind of started it as an ad hoc organization.
Jewish organizations say they've seen a spike in online threats since the U.S. and Israel started striking Iran. And last Thursday, a man armed with a rifle and fireworks rammed his truck into Temple Israel Synagogue in Michigan. Law enforcement praised the security team there for responding quickly. But experts are also trying to spot warning signs online before someone attacks.
So the only way to be able to actually stop these attacks is to be able to get to these actors before they pivot outward. And as far as where law enforcement is at with that, they're very, very blind right now.
Ian Turner leads the Phoenix branch of Magen Am. He says an anti-Semitic attack like the one last week in Michigan is something he prepares for every day.
Aside from putting on an extra guy on a shift and kind of telling everybody, hey guys, this could very much well be this elevated barometric pressure that drives the crazies out. Aside from that, we've done all that we can do.
The FBI still has not revealed an exact motive for the attack on the temple in Michigan last week. However, the Israeli military says the suspect, Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, is the brother of a Hezbollah commander who was killed in an Israeli airstrike earlier this month in Lebanon. In Phoenix, Amalia Roy, Live Now from Fox.
All right, thank you so much, Amalia, for that report as the U.S., of course, is stepping up security amid the conflict in the Middle East. We also have this update that we want to bring you. This is from Phil Stewart with Reuters saying the UAE has temporarily closed its airspace as an exceptional precautionary measure. That's according to Reuters. The United Arab Emirates General Civil Aviation Authority announcing the temporary and full closure of the country's airspace as, quote, an exceptional precautionary measure amid the rapidly evolving regional security developments. The state news agency reported on Tuesday this, and the UAE's defense ministry said earlier today that it was responding to incoming missile and drone threats from Iran. So that is the latest out of the Middle East. Reuters reporting that the UAE has temporarily closed its airspace. We will continue to follow that, bring you any developments as we get them from the situation in the Middle East. Another live look at the White House right now, turning to another matter of foreign policy. Cuba is under new and intense pressures to make a deal with the United States as the island is facing one of its most severe economic crises in decades. Officials there are reporting also an island-wide blackout following a weekend that saw a rare and forcible protest. Fox News Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has the latest from Cuba.
Cuba's power system has suffered a total collapse. Officials there report an island-wide blackout. The energy ministry suggests the country's electrical system is seeing, quote, total disconnection. Protests are growing in the island nation, demonstrators venting anger about poor living conditions. And in one city, trashing the Communist Party's office, throwing rocks at the building and some setting it on fire. President Trump sees this unrest as an opportunity.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
A White House official tells Fox, quote, as the president stated, we are talking to Cuba, whose leaders should make a deal which he believes would be very easily made. The Cuban regime today extending an olive branch, saying that it is, in fact, open for business.
Cuba is open to having a fluid commercial relationship with U.S. companies, also with Cubans residing in the United States and their descendants. And this extends beyond the commercial sphere. It also applies to investments.
But the regime also took aim at the continued blockade of fuel as a roadblock for further cooperation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is leading the diplomatic effort and says the status quo in Cuba is unsustainable.
Cuba needs to change. It needs to change. And it doesn't have to change all at once. It doesn't have to change from one day to the next. Everyone is mature and realistic here.
Some congressional Democrats have introduced legislation aimed at blocking U.S. military action against Cuba without congressional approval, clearly worried that if there isn't change, the president may use force, as he did in Venezuela, to make it happen. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
And we also have this from the U.S. Embassy in Cuba talking about that blackout, saying that a nationwide blackout, including Havana, happened around 1:54 local time. A disconnection of the national electrical grid occurred, resulting in a total power outage that includes the metropolitan area of Havana. There is no information on when electrical service will be restored. Cuba's national electrical grid is increasingly unstable and unscheduled power outages are prolonged and a daily occurrence throughout the country, including Havana. These outages affect water supply, lighting, refrigeration, and communications. Take precautions by conserving fuel, water, food, and your mobile phone charge, and prepare for significant disruptions. So that coming from the U.S. Embassy in Cuba today, talking about those nationwide power outages there in Cuba. And we also have this from Fox News, saying President Trump floated the idea that the United States could take Cuba, quote, in some form, saying the island nation is currently weakened after decades of rule by the Castro regime. The U.S. and Cuba talks also continuing as the island is dealing with those blackouts, as you just heard. All right, we have some breaking news coming in right now. The Corey Richens trial in Utah. That is the mother accused of poisoning and killing her husband and then writing a children's book about grief. We have this live right now, expecting the verdict to be read any moment on this murder charge. Let's listen in.
I can put up my instant messaging. Okay.
All rise for the jury.
Folks, please have a seat as you come in.
Please have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, would the foreperson you've selected please stand? May I ask you a yes or no question? Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, we have.
Would you please hand the verdict form to the deputy, and you can have a seat. Thank you. I'll take that. All right. Counsel, Ms. Richards, please stand. Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt. The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty of forgery. It's signed by the foreperson. Please have a seat. Madam Foreperson, is this the verdict that the jury reached unanimously?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may have a seat. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, do you wish the jury to be polled?
Yes, please.
All right. Folks, I'll ask you the same yes or no question, one at a time, starting on my left, working this way. Front row first. If you could show me your lanyard number as I ask you. Juror number 5, is this the verdict you voted in favor of?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this a verdict you voted in favor of? Juror number 3. I can't see your number, I'm so sorry. The foreperson, I just need to ask you again, I'm sorry. Juror number 2.
Yes, it is.
Juror number 1.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir. Juror number 8.
Yes.
Juror number 7.
Yes.
Juror number 6.
Yes.
All right. Counsel, is there anything further on this case before the jury is discharged? Mr. Bloodworth.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this trial is now finished. Thank you for your service. The American system of justice relies on your time and your sound judgment, and you have been generous with both. You serve justice by your fair and impartial decision. All of my previous admonitions are now lifted. You may speak about this case with anyone or with no one at all. It is entirely up to you. You might be contacted in the future by the press or by the lawyers. You do not have to talk with them or with anyone else, but you may if you would like. The choice is yours entirely. I'm now turning to the attorneys and instructing them to honor your wishes as officers of the court if you indicate that you do not want to talk about this case. If you do talk about the case, please respect the privacy of your fellow jurors. The confidences they may have shared with you during deliberation are not yours to share with others. Thank you, all of you, for your service. Please rise for the jury. All right, please have a seat. Ms. Lewis, we need to get a pre-sentence investigation report, and we need to set sentencing. I imagine, Mr. Bloodworth, that the state would request that that be special set.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, does defendant waive the 45-day limit for sentencing?
Yes, we will.
All right. Let me call up my calendar. Should we be looking in May, Ms. Lewis?
That's fine.
Do you have a sense of it, Mr. Bloodworth? April is not possible. In May, do you have a sense of when would be appropriate?
Your Honor, can I step back and talk to the victim's family?
Sure. And Ms. Lewis, if you need a moment to confer with anyone.
Your Honor, any day in May works.
Without having to move something, which I am, of course, willing to do, I could do it during the week of May 25 or the morning of May 13. But if those times don't work, or if the week of May 25 is too far out, I'll move something to accommodate council schedules. Ms. Lewis, why don't I begin with you?
Either of those days would work for the defense.
Is a morning enough time?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. We'll set sentencing for 9:30 a.m. Wednesday, May 13. We're hereby referring Ms. Richens for the preparation of a pre-sentence investigation report. Ms. Lewis, anything else on the record today?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Richens, I'll see you again, May 13, 9:30 a.m. I need everyone to stay seated, follow the instructions of the Summit County deputies. The court is in recess. Travel safely.
All right, we just heard that breaking news out of Utah. The Corey Richens trial found guilty of murdering her husband. Corey Richens, a Utah mother of 3, was accused of fatally poisoning her husband, Eric Richens, back in 2022. Today was the 15th day of her trial. We heard closing arguments earlier this morning. The jury deliberated for a few hours and came back with a verdict the same day as those closing arguments, finding Richens guilty on all 3 charges. She was facing aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, as well as insurance fraud and forgery. The jury finding her guilty of all of those charges. Now, again, Corey Richens, a Utah mother of 3, found guilty of poisoning and killing her husband, Eric Richens, also then writing a children's book about grief after that alleged murder. So we just saw that live, and the judge scheduling her sentencing for May 13th. So that's when we can expect that. That was that breaking news. We heard the verdict live as it was read there in Park City, Utah. When we come back after this break, we're going to be speaking with a lawyer about the implications of this, what kind of sentence she could be facing, and the significance of the jury coming back with a verdict so quickly after those closing arguments today. We'll have that for you right after this 2-minute break. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi, and we are following breaking news out of Park City, Utah. We just watched live as the verdict was read in the Corey Richens murder trial. Corey Richens, a Utah mother of 3, found guilty of fatally poisoning her husband, Eric Richens, back in 2022, and then writing a children's book about grief. We have this from East Idaho news reporter Nate Eaton, who's been in that courtroom for the entire trial, tweeting as that verdict was read, count 1. Corey Richens found guilty of aggravated murder, also found guilty on count 2, attempted aggravated murder. Some jurors, he said, are staring at Corey. One juror appearing emotional while that verdict was being read. Counts 3 and 4, insurance fraud and forgery The jury finding Corey Richins guilty on both of those charges as well. And for more on this, we want to bring in Matt Tipanik. He is a criminal defense attorney who's also been following this trial closely. Thank you so much for being here with us, Matt. So we just watched live as that verdict was read. Was it a bit surprising to you that the jury came back with a verdict pretty quickly? We heard those closing arguments earlier today. Some were anticipating maybe not getting a verdict until possibly tomorrow morning. How long did the jury deliberate here? And is it common in a murder trial like this for them to come back with a verdict same day as closing arguments just a few hours later?
I think the jury was out roughly 2 hours, 56 minutes, if my timing is correct. And that's relatively quick for a murder case. But there is no standard amount of time how long a jury could be out. I've seen cases where the evidence is overwhelming and the jury's out 27 minutes on a murder case. That's just sometimes how it goes. And for me, the biggest piece of evidence was, one, the wag the dog letter, which was just... you might as well just sign your confession while you're at it. And as well as the fact that she wrote a children's book about grief. The pure evil that this woman did, taking their children's father away from them, is just, it's unforgivable. And that's what's going to ultimately cause her to spend the remainder of her life in prison.
And we also heard the judge scheduling her sentencing. That's scheduled for May 13th. As she's been found guilty on all of these charges, what can we expect for a possible sentence here?
I can't imagine it's anything but life without the possibility of parole. I think the egregious nature, the pure, cold, calculated evil that was effectuated in this case, nothing else would suffice but life without parole.
And this has been a pretty lengthy trial. We've heard from a number of witnesses called to the stand. Can we talk about some of those things that you mentioned that had stuck out throughout this trial that may have led to this unanimous guilty verdict by the jury? We heard from the former housekeeper for the couple, as well as several other experts and witnesses. As you've been following this trial, what do you think really stood out and possibly helped sway the jury in this case?
One of the things was the former housekeeper saying that she procured fentanyl on behalf of Miss Richins prior to. So it's like, why are you asking your housekeeper to get fentanyl? And it's like, that's what was used to commit these offenses. And you have on top of that the wag the dog letter, where it's instructing how the witness, how to lie and stuff like that, how to evade answers. That's not somebody does when they're innocent or they are being unjustly accused. That's somebody does that when they're guilty and they know they're guilty. So what I was hearing is they can't even look. What I'm seeing inside the courtroom, they can't even look. They are staring at the defendant. One of them reportedly is extremely emotional, which tells you that it's like, how could you possibly do this? Like, there is true evil in the world, and jurors sit on murder cases all the time, but I don't know if a juror is ever going to be able to eliminate what Miss Richins did from their memory for the remainder of their lives. It is just the epitome of evil in the world. And it's just, I'm glad the jury was able to come to a verdict as quickly as they could to get justice for Mr. Richins' family.
And let's talk a little bit more about that children's book. I think that's something that sticks out to a lot of people in this case. Corey Richins, allegedly, this happened back in 2022 when she poisoned her husband, leading to his death, as said by the jury today. And then she published that children's book about grief. That was not immediately after, but shortly after publishing that book is when she was actually taken into custody. Do you think that that played a part in her being eventually arrested and then convicted of this murder? How big of a role do you think that children's book played, not just in the case, but also in the jury's opinion of Corey Richins here?
When that book, reading it and understanding it, if you're law enforcement, I prosecute cases, defending cases, reviewing it, it is literally a confession, if it were. And it's somebody who's basically almost taunting the alleged the victim's family, the deceased, Mr. Richens' family, that, hey, I did this and I'm pretty sure I just got away with it. So now I'm going to try to monetize my late husband's death, whom I caused, even some more. Just the sheer, like, not even humanity, of not being a person. That is just what is so, like, chilling about this case. And everything that was presented in this case, it's going to be very difficult for the defendant to dodge a sentence of life without parole, if not impossible.
And as these verdicts are read, often people are watching for any type of reaction from the defendant. So we want to play out what we just watched a few moments ago as that verdict was read and Corey Richens' reaction here. And then we'll check back in with you in just a second. So let's play this clip and see how she reacted to that verdict being read on the aggravated murder charge.
Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. Count 1.
So we just watched that clip of the judge reading the verdict for the aggravated murder charge, finding Corey Richens guilty. We saw a little bit of a reaction from her. In your experience as a criminal defense attorney, what do you take from her reaction and just the overall reaction inside of the courtroom, even some of the jurors getting emotional here?
What I can tell you based on her reaction, I honestly thought she was going to get away with it. Based on what was presented, it's like the evidence all points in one direction, and that's you are the one who effectuated this crime. You shouldn't be shocked at all by this verdict. Her reaction shows me she's like, darn, I thought I was going to get away with it. And it's like, no, if you review the evidence, you actually convicted yourself. Without the wag the dog letter, without the, the love affair and all the stealing, that's something that's not going to be talked about as much as the aggravated murder charge. She stole her life savings from one of her friends who entrusted it to her. All of these things is a sick and deranged person would do. And as such, somebody who's trying to get away with murder, who only cared about herself, who was literally trying to monetize her husband's death, whether it be his life insurance, via a potential settlement for a divorce, and seeing as though his death would make her a lot more money, and then making a children's book. It is just chilling when you hear the jurors. They can't even believe what they sat through. And a 3-hour verdict says that they want to sit there and watch until they are excused because they believe this woman deserves everything coming her way.
And again, we are expecting that sentencing hearing coming up in May. After that, what do you think we can expect from Richens and her team? Is it possible that we might see attempts at an appeal in the future?
I think it'd be pretty standard in a aggravated murder case for them to file for an appeal after the judgment and sentence. I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to be able to not survive appellate scrutiny, but with it being a life in prison without the possibility of parole case, you can't really, it can't hurt to try if it were.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. Last thing I want to ask you here, of course, there were a lot of eyes on this trial, even the judge acknowledging how much media attention this trial has gotten. How does that play into a murder case like this? Does this amplify the evidence as it comes in, and does it put more pressure on the jurors to get it right?
It amplifies what is being presented and puts more pressure on the prosecution and the defense, because if you're the prosecution, a loss in a major homicide case is usually the end of your career, because when push comes to shove, you can't turn around and tell the state attorney, the district attorney, the attorney general, whoever is the top officer in your office, that you can win the big case. If you're the defense, you're looking at it like, I got to show that I'm actually competent to actually do this. It's like I'm holding out that I'm doing homicide cases. How am I performing? It's not really win-loss, but it's how you perform. And the defense in this case was lackluster at best. I obviously understand they didn't have much to work with, But I think overall they didn't do the greatest job with the case. So when the media tension's this high, it puts the pressure on all parties to perform to the best, absolute best of their abilities.
All right, Matt Timpanek, a criminal defense attorney, we really appreciate your perspective on this case, and we will be watching for that sentencing hearing coming up May 13th. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will bring you the latest on this case. Again, that sentencing hearing is scheduled for May 13th. Just moments ago, that verdict was read live in the courtroom in Park City, Utah. Corey Richens found guilty of fatally poisoning her husband, Eric, back in 2022, also then writing a children's book about grief following that murder. We're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back with more. Actually, in the meantime, let's listen in one more time as that verdict was read, some of the reaction coming in the courtroom as that happened. This is from the last 10 or 20 minutes or so, that verdict read live there in Summit County, Utah.
Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt. The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richens, is guilty of forgery. It's signed by the foreperson. Please have a seat. Madam Foreperson, is this the verdict that the jury reached unanimously?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may have a seat. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, do you wish the jury to be polled?
Yes, please.
All right. Folks, I'll ask you the same yes or no question, one at a time, starting on my left, working this way. Front row first. If you could show me your lanyard number as I ask you. Juror number 5, is this the verdict you voted in favor of?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this the verdict you voted in favor of?
Yes.
Juror number 3.
Yes.
I can't see your number, I'm so sorry. The foreperson, I just need to ask you again, I'm sorry. Juror number 2.
Yes, it is.
Juror number 1.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir. Juror number 8.
Yes.
Juror number 7.
Yes.
Juror number 6.
Yes.
All right. Counsel, is there anything further on this case before the jury is discharged? Mr. Bloodworth.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this trial is now finished. Thank you for your service. The American system of justice relies on your time and your sound judgment, and you have been generous with both. You serve justice by your fair and impartial decision. All of my previous admonitions are now lifted. You may speak about this case with anyone or with no one at all. It is entirely up to you. You might be contacted in the future by the press or by the lawyers. You do not have to talk with them or with anyone else, but you may if you would like. The choice is yours entirely. I'm now turning to the attorneys and instructing them to honor your wishes as officers of the court if you indicate that you do not want to talk about this case. If you do talk about the case, please respect the privacy of your fellow jurors. The confidences they may have shared with you during deliberation are not yours to share with others. Thank you, all of you, for your service. Please rise for the jury. All right, please have a seat. Ms. Lewis, we need to get a pre-sentence investigation report, and we need to set sentencing. I imagine, Mr. Bloodworth, that the state would request that that be special set.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, does defendant waive the 45-day limit for sentencing?
Yes, we will.
All right.
We were just listening again to the verdict being read in the Corey Richins murder trial out of Utah. That verdict coming in the last half hour. The jury finding the Utah mother of three guilty of fatally poisoning her husband, Eric Richins, back in 2022. Corey Richins also found guilty of aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, insurance fraud, and forgery. We are going to be following this case as the sentencing is now scheduled for May 13th. Let's take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We've been following that story out of Texas. Representative Jasmine Crockett's longtime security guard was killed in a standoff with police last week, and we now have a statement from Crockett. She posted this on X along with a more lengthy statement saying, "As a former public defender, I've always believed people are more than the worst thing they've ever done. I believe in redemption. The man we knew showed up with respect, care, and commitment to protecting others. We're still learning the full story, but today we mourn a life lost. This is a tragic ending that we wish had been avoided for all." And earlier today, the Dallas Police Department holding a press conference on this case, also showing the body camera footage from the officers on scene of that standoff. And we want to warn you, this viewer discretion is advised in this body camera footage. It is very graphic and shows the moments leading up to that suspect being shot and killed by police. Let's listen into that press conference from Dallas Police earlier today.
We are here to provide factual update regarding an officer-involved shooting that occurred on Wednesday, March 11, 2026, in the parking structure located in the 1900 block of Medical District Drive. This incident marks the 6th officer-involved shooting involving a Dallas Police Department officer in 2026. 5 of those incidents occurred within Dallas Police Department jurisdiction. 1 involved an off-duty officer in another jurisdiction. No officers were injured during this incident. To provide context for this, it is important to explain the investigation that led to this moment. On February 17, 2026, the Urban Police Department issued a bulletin regarding a black GMC Yukon displaying a stolen U.S. government license plate. Through investigative work conducted by the Dallas Police Department's Intelligence Unit and Fugitive Unit, the suspect was identified as 39-year-old Diamond Mazari Robinson. During the investigation, detectives learned Robinson had been using fictitious information and wearing police-style uniforms to falsely represent himself as a federal agent. Detectives also learned Robinson used the alias Mike King and created fraudulent businesses using false identifying information to hire legitimate police officers for off-duty jobs. Robinson was wanted on multiple felony warrants as well as a parole violation warrant. Detectives also learned he was operating multiple vehicles during this investigation. The black GMC Yukon and a white Ford F-250 were both reported stolen, and detectives determined he was also operating a silver Dodge Charger, also displaying stolen government license plate. We understand there are additional questions related to other aspects of this investigation. Today's briefing will focus specifically on the officer-involved shooting and the events that led to it. Additional questions unrelated to the officer-involved shooting will be addressed at a separate briefing. I will now turn it over to Executive Assistant Chief Rose, who will provide details of March 11.
On March 11, 2026, at approximately 9:13 p.m., members of the Dallas Police Fugitive Unit located Diamond Mazari Robinson inside a white Mercedes belonging to an acquaintance of the suspect in the parking structure in the 1900 block of Medical District Drive. Fugitive officers spent more than an hour attempting to negotiate with Robinson. During that time, officers offered him opportunities to speak with family members to resolve the situation peacefully, which is a common practice during negotiations. When those efforts were unsuccessful, SWAT officers were called to the scene to assist, and shortly after 10 p.m., SWAT continued negotiations. SWAT officers gave repeated verbal commands for Robinson to exit the vehicle, and at approximately 11:03 p.m., Robinson began to exit the vehicle. While officers continued giving verbal commands, they observed Robinson lower his right hand and produce a handgun and pointed it at officers. SWAT officers deployed a less lethal chemical agent and a flashbang diversion device. 3 SWAT officers then fired their tactical rifles, striking Robinson, and he fell to the ground. SWAT officers approached Robinson and safely removed the gun from his hand. A SWAT medic immediately began life-saving measures, but those efforts were unsuccessful, and Robinson was pronounced deceased at 11:09 p.m. At this time, we'll turn the briefing over to Assistant Director Hudson.
Investigators recovered a total of 11 firearms connected to this investigation. The handgun that was in Robinson's hand at the time of the shooting was reported stolen. Additional firearms were recovered from other vehicles associated with Robinson as well as his residence. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office is conducting an independent investigation, and the Office of Community Police Oversight has been briefed. All officers involved have been placed on administrative leave, which is standard procedure following officer-involved investigation. We will now watch the body-worn camera and dash cam video.
Hey, stop the car! Stop the car! Move your car, move your car. Stop! Stop! Go.
I don't think he knows that.
All right, come on. Yeah. Hey, Sarge, he rolled through this light on us. We're continuing on. We'll stop when you want us to. We're back by the state. I'll
keep my lights on.
By the station. He's just rolling through these lights on us. You sir? You have your lights on, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he's not stopping. We've hit him plenty of times. He is northbound on Market, crossing Jackson.
He's just gonna keep going through. Yeah, no, he's.
Yeah, Sarge, he's not stopping. He's to Maine. Looks like he's going through Maine. He's going through a red light. Do we have any coverts with him? Negative. No, he's going through red lights now. All right, he's shooting across. He got all the way in the right-hand lane. He crossed Jackson. I think he continued straight. Get me to the right. See if we can get eyes on him.
I don't know if he made it right or not.
His head goes down. Our city goes down. Yep. I know he's got that gun on him.
We want you to go peaceful. We want you to do what I ask you to do, and you won't get hurt. We don't want anybody to get hurt. It ain't working. I know you're on. I
got it.
All I want you to do is when you exit the car, let it fall. Don't reach for it. Don't do anything. And nothing will happen. Just keep your hands up.
Stand up upstairs this round.
You ready? What's your first aid, man? Mike? Okay, Mike. Come on, get out. Get out. Keep your hands up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hands up. Don't reach. Don't do it. Don't do it. Come on. This is it. Come on. Get out. Come on. Get out. Get out. Keep your hands up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hand up. Don't reach. Don't do it. Don't do it. Hold. 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 Hey, get behind cover, Jay. Hold. All right, hey, we're fine. Easy. Everybody good?
Hey, watch your backdrop. There's operators on that floor.
You good? No.
Hey, walk away.
Okay, come on. Come on. Come on. This is it. Come on. Get out. Come on. Get out. Get out. Keep your hands up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hand up. Don't reach. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Easy. Hey, get behind cover, Jeremy. Back up.
Before we take any questions, Assistant Chief Sam Sarmiento will provide remarks in Spanish.
And Dallas police also taking some questions from reporters after showing that body camera footage of the police standoff and shooting. Let's listen in to some of that Q&A portion.
So I'll call up Deputy Chief William Griffith to answer some of that. As far as who he worked for, our focus is on the officer-involved shooting, and so you would have to check with those entities.
Yeah, so the agencies that he reported to work for do not exist. So basically special dignitary police. And so that agency does not exist within the federal government. So that's who he portrayed to be. That's how his IDs that he had put together showed to be. But those agencies do not exist. So there was no actual federal agency that he worked for that existed.
Sure. So your question is about the app that he was using. So like I said, we're going to focus on the officer-involved shooting and related to that. But anything else outside of that, we will answer those questions in a separate briefing. So today we're going to talk about the officer-involved shooting. So if you have questions related to that, we can answer that. But to answer your other questions, we will answer that at a later time. Correct. Yes.
No, so after you saw the day video, officers, the fugitive unit lost sight of him. And so we was able to obtain what we believed his home address was in 1100 block of Peters. So they did some covert surveillance over at that location. Later in the evening, the Yukon became occupied. So they followed the Yukon over to Children's into the parking garage. And then they saw Mr. Robinson and an acquaintance leave the parking lot in a different vehicle, the white Mercedes that you see there. They went to a fast food restaurant, got something to eat, and then returned. So fugitive unit went back upstairs to verify that there was Mr. Robinson inside the vehicle, and that's the time that they made the felony stop on the vehicle. Excuse me. During the shooting? No, ma'am. So when the fugitive unit made the felony stop, the acquaintance inside the vehicle was taken out about 2 or 3 minutes after the stop. She was taken to safety outside the vehicle.
Inside the parking garage?
Inside the parking lots, yes. ID cards were also found inside the vehicle as well, along with some badges. We executed a search warrant on Mr. Robinson's apartment that afternoon and recovered additional badges and additional firearms.
To follow up on my question about the warrants, is it right that those warrants have been active since 2017, or that's just
Yes, they were active since 2017. There were some additional cases that have been filed, but those warrants passed statute of limitations, so those warrants fell off.
Was he just hard to find because of aliases?
He's very good at hiding his true identity. And through great police work from the intelligence unit in the Irving Police Department, we were, through technology, able to determine who his real identity was. But he had been living this for many years at this Mike King. So the intelligence unit had been working on it about a week and a half, or 2 weeks or so after the officer had came to them and observed and saw the bulletin of that Yukon where he had seen before. So basically working with the Irving Police Department, they was able to obtain his true identity. They weren't sure who he was at the time, so it was through investigative work they was able to determine that and start working more in depth with locating him, finding out what's going on, all that, even with his alias name. Yes, there was a working relationship that occurred approximately 6 months prior to this incident. That he had just remembered working with him, noticing that vehicle with the government license plate.
Similar question: have you interviewed or encountered just everyday citizens that they haven't encountered him as he's impersonating a federal officer or an officer of the law? Just everyday people who have had any sort of interaction or encounter?
We have not personally received any interactions with the community directly. We have been interviewing some potential witnesses and things like that, but if there's anybody who's had any interaction with him, to please give our Special Investigations Unit a phone call to let us know, because we're still investigating the whole circumstances of everything right now.
Two more questions. We understand this Yukon had flashing red and blue lights. Is that true? What can you say about that?
I believe they did have flashing red lights as well. They are seen on flat camera with the lights on in several places. We have not found anything at this time right now, but again, the investigation is very infinite, so we're concentrating on one part of it. investigation, which is the shooting at first, and then we'll begin moving into the other things. There's evidence that we found inside Mr. Robinson's apartment that there's a lot of evidence we're still going through to determine, if there's anyone else involved in that. So that it's going to take some time to go through all that evidence.
Thank you, guys.
That was Dallas police speaking at a press conference a few hours ago about an officer-involved shooting. A security guard for Representative Jasmine Crockett killed in a standoff with the Dallas police. We just heard about that situation as well as watched the body camera footage from officers on scene there. I want to switch back to another story we told you about in the last hour. Corey Richens, a mother of 3 out of Utah, found guilty of murdering her husband, Eric Richens, back in 2022, fatally poisoning him. The jury deliberating for about 3 hours today after closing arguments, coming back with that guilty verdict for aggravated murder. And we just heard moments ago from some of the family of Eric Richens speaking outside the courtroom after that verdict was read. Let's listen.
Okay. 4 years ago, our family lost the brightest light. Eric is deeply loved and missed every single day. We are grateful to everyone who has worked tirelessly to bring justice for Eric. Our focus is now on honoring Eric's life and supporting his boys as we all continue to heal. Thank you all for being here.
Anything you want to say in reaction to the verdict as far as, are you happy, are you satisfied, is there justice served?
Honestly, I feel like we're all in shock. Still, it's been a long time coming. So just very happy that we got justice for my brother.
And tell me a little about Eric. How do you want him to be remembered?
Just as the amazing man and father he was. So I know we'll be coming out more later, probably after sentencing, and we'll talk more. So.
Were you surprised how quickly it came down?
A little bit, yeah. I think everybody was, but I think the jurors did a fantastic job. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you all so much. Have a good day. Amy, thank you. Thank you. Love you too.
So that was the sister of Eric Richens, Amy, speaking after that guilty verdict came down in the Corey Richens murder trial. She was accused of fatally poisoning her husband, Eric, in 2022, and then writing a children's book about grief. The sentencing hearing for Corey Richens now scheduled for May 13th. We will be following this case closely, bring you those updates as they come. Let's take a 2-minute break. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We are tracking the latest developments out of the Middle East. A live look at Tel Aviv tonight. Earlier today, UK Prime Minister Starmer speaking about the conflict in the Middle East. Let's listen into those remarks.
Good morning. The conflict in Iran and across the Middle East is now entering its third week. So I want to take a moment to set out how we're responding to this crisis and standing up for the British people. Our priority is always the national interest. And so we have been clear and consistent in our objectives throughout this conflict. First, we will protect our people in the region. Second, while taking the necessary action to defend ourselves and our allies, we will not be defend our allies. We will not be the one. And third, we will keep working a swift resolution that brings security and stability back to the region and stops the Iranian threat to its neighbours. I want to see an end to this war as quickly as possible, because the longer it goes on, the more dangerous the situation becomes, and the worse it is for the cost of living back here at home. Now, in recent days, I've visited community centres in England and Northern Ireland, and I know people are really worried about what this means for them. And look, I grew up working class in the 1970s. I remember how it feels when you're struggling to make ends meet. It's a knot in your stomach every time the bills come through the door. And that's at the forefront of my mind in meeting this crisis. So in a moment, I'll set out what we're doing to help people with the cost of living. But let me first give you an update on what we're doing in the region. We continue to work around the clock to help our people in the Middle East. As of this morning, over 92,000 British nationals have returned to the UK on commercial and government charter flights. Now that work continues, including to support British citizens in Lebanon. Our armed forces are working 24/7 to protect British lives and British interests and support our Gulf partners. We have thousands of servicemen and women in Cyprus and across the region. 3 squadrons of fighter jets working alongside counter-drone teams to intercept Iranian attacks. They are protecting our people, our bases, and our allies night and day. And I pay tribute to all of them. We're also continuing our diplomatic response. The Foreign Secretary has been in the region in recent days. I'm in close contact with leaders from across the Gulf and Europe and beyond. I met Prime Minister Carney earlier this morning, and I'll be meeting President Zelensky soon, because it's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin. Now, it's clear the US operation has massively weakened the military capability of the abhorrent regime in Iran. The question is, what comes next? When the fighting stops, we are going to need some sort of negotiated agreement to constrain the threat posed by Iran, to limit their ability to rebuild their nuclear program, to pose a ballistic missile threat and arm their proxy militias, and limit the threat that they can pose to international shipping, which is hitting global supplies of oil, of gas and fertilizer, which is pushing up prices here at home. Now, we've already acted alongside other countries to release emergency oil stocks at a level that is completely unprecedented. But ultimately, we have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ensure stability in the market. That is not a simple task. So we're working with all of our allies, including our European partners, to bring together a viable collective plan that can restore freedom of navigation in the region as quickly as possible and ease the economic impacts. Now, because of the decisions that we have taken, the British economy is better placed than it otherwise would have been to weather the storm. Since the election, we've built up our national resilience. We are delivering the biggest uplift in defence spending since the Cold War. We're investing in clean British power to boost our energy security and protect people working from volatile fossil fuel markets. And because we have brought stability back to our public finances, stability that I will never put at risk, the start of the Ukraine war 4 years ago. Now, back then, inflation was 5% and rising. We brought it down to 3% today. And this isn't just about dry economics. It's about values. We built this resilience for a reason, to give us the space to act, to support working people, and shelter our country from the shocks, the volatility that is buffeting our world. And we are active. So this morning, I want to set out 5 steps that we're taking to tackle the cost of living. First, we have capped energy bills until the end of June, saving the average household £117. Now that's in addition to the Warm Homes discount of £150 for the most vulnerable in society. No matter what happens now in energy markets, in 3 weeks' time, your energy bills will be cut and then capped for the next 3 months. And I can announce today that we're giving a legal direction to the energy companies to ensure that every penny of the savings that we delivered through last year's budget is passed directly onto customers to keep bills as low as possible. Second, we have extended the cut in fuel duty until September. And we've introduced the Cheap Fuel Finder, forcing petrol stations to publish their live prices to make it easier for drivers to choose the lowest price. Now, let me be really clear on this. Back in 2022, when prices spiked because of the conflict in Ukraine, I campaigned for a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. And we have raised it in government to ensure that companies can't profit from spikes in prices like these, and that money will go back into people's pockets. I simply will not allow companies to make huge profits from the hardship of working people. Now, this government was elected to stop that, and we will. That's also why we're going to support rural communities with the cost of heating oil. And this is point number 3. The CMA reported last week what every heating oil customer already knows. These are accounts of suppliers cancelling orders and jacking up prices. Now, that kind of conduct is completely unacceptable. So if the companies have broken the law, there will be legal action. And because it's clear this market is under-regulated, we're going to put that right to ensure customers get a better deal. But we won't just wait for that. I'm announcing immediate support for vulnerable heating oil customers today, providing £53 million for those households that are most exposed. Fourth, we are pushing ahead with our long-term plan to build Britain's energy security and independence, because otherwise we will continue to be subject to wild fluctuations in oil and gas prices. We've already brought in £90 billion of investment in clean British energy, and that's enough to power the equivalent of over 20 million homes. Just last week, we committed to reforming regulations so we can fast-track new nuclear power stations. Now, this has been opposed every step of the way by those who want to resist the push for clean energy. They did the same throughout the entire period of the last government, and they won. But we see here, as we did with Ukraine, that this is a vital cause. Because until we get ourselves off the roller coaster of international oil and gas markets and onto clean, homegrown British energy, tyrants like Putin and the Ayatollahs will be free to attack our energy security. So we won't slow down on this. We will go faster. Fifth, we will continue to work towards a swift resolution of the situation in the Middle East. Because there is no question, ending the war is the quickest way to reduce the cost of living.
That was the UK Prime Minister Starmer talking at a press conference earlier this morning, addressing the conflict in the Middle East and talking about how that's affecting people there in the UK. Let's take another 2-minute break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. We are covering some severe weather hitting different parts of the country. A massive winter storm impacting the Midwest. It unleashed just some dangerous mixes of blizzard conditions for those residents. Those storms so intense that they will spread out, hitting the Northeast through Tuesday. So a big impact here from that storm. Fox's Gernal Scott has more.
Quite yet for millions of Americans. Life-threatening storm conditions slammed the upper Midwest and Great Lakes with heavy snowfall and strong wind gusts.
Just been a crazy weather year.
So far, more than 24,000 flights have been disrupted. Blizzard warnings are in effect across Minnesota, Iowa, and northwestern Illinois, as well as most of Wisconsin, while parts of northern Michigan are also under an ice storm warning.
Last week in southern Michigan, there was tornadoes. You know, a few weeks before that, there was freezing rainstorms across with the lake effect.
More than 2 feet of snow was reported in Wisconsin and Michigan, heavy enough to take down trees and power lines.
We understand people want it restored as quickly as possible. We do too, so we're going to do it safely. We're going to do it quickly.
These severe conditions also impacting the Northeast, where storms are expected to bring heavy rain, strong winds, and even the threat of tornadoes.
So please secure all of your outdoor items. Bring your pets inside. Make sure you've charged your devices and flashlights, and check on vulnerable neighbors and friends. During the storm, stay inside.
Extreme weather also affecting Nebraska. Wind gusts of up to 65 miles per hour causing one of the largest wildfires in its history, with over 540,000 acres burning. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
That was Gernal Scott reporting on that severe weather hitting the upper Midwest and heading towards the East Coast. Officials giving warnings in a number of cities, telling their residents to stay safe during the severe weather. That weather also impacting flight schedules on top of delayed TSA lines. So if you're going to be flying, be mindful of that as well. This concludes our live coverage for the night here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to take a 2-minute break. After that, you'll see our overnight playlist with your top stories and headlines from the day. We'll be back early tomorrow morning with more live coverage for you. Thanks for watching Live Now from Fox. Have a great night.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries makes remarks on the partial government shutdown, the latest in Iran, and more.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of House Democrats, let me just begin by communicating our sincere thoughts and prayers to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles as it relates to her diagnosis. And of course, we'll support her in any way possible as she battles through this diagnosis and returns back to work in full and complete health. This is a very challenging moment for the United States of America, as we've done nothing but damage the quality of life of the American people. It was Republicans who, in their one big ugly bill, enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing throughout America because of Republican policies, and at the same period of time, these extremists refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, causing health insurance premiums to skyrocket for more than 20 million working-class Americans. Republicans have done great damage to the American people, made life more expensive for everyday Americans, on health care, on gas prices, on housing costs, on child care, on groceries. They've made life more expensive for the American people, and it's affirmatively being done by toxic and extreme Republican policies. And to make matters worse, at the same period of time, they've now gotten us into a reckless war of choice against Iran, and are spending billions of dollars to drop bombs in the Middle East, but can't find a dime to make life more affordable for the American people. There's a better way, and Democrats are committed to fighting hard, to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, making sure that immigration enforcement in this country is fair, just, and humane. And at the same time, ensuring that our taxpayer dollars aren't spent on another endless war in the Middle East, but are spent to lower the high cost of living, to make sure that every single American in this country can live an affordable life, a comfortable life, and live the good life. Questions?
Good afternoon. Republicans ran on border security in 2024. They largely attribute some of their victories to that. Do you think that with the SAVE Act in front of the Senate that there is a risk for Democrats, because we see all this polling that it favors their side, that people want this in spite of the problems you have with this? Is there a risk for Democrats to have that backfire on them considering their opposition?
No, we've repeatedly made clear that the administration of elections are to be done as per the United States Constitution. This was an intentional choice that the framers of this country made, that the administration of elections are to be done at the state and local level. And states are free to make the determination as to what type of requirement there should be. The Constitution also makes clear that only citizens can vote. That's a constitutional requirement. And states are free to implement that requirement as best they see fit. In New York State, for instance, there are strong voter identification requirements that have been embraced by both Democrats and Republicans.